go there yourself and work in the interests of your own country, where you were born.
A quote there from Jamaica's first Prime Minister, Sir Alexander Bustamante, as his legacy continues to be preserved. This follows the formal launch of the book Bustamante, Notes, Quotes and Anecdotes by Ken Jones.
This was a man who was never afraid to swim against the tide, to go against the flow, to say things that are, in a sense, reality checks, but things that people of less courage wouldn't be prepared to say.
And that concludes the highlights of the Prime Minister's weekly activities. I'm Andrea Chisholm. Join us next Monday for another recap.
Prep and primary school students tell Auntie Alva what they are looking for in a parent. Take a look.
This is Voice Up, Voice Out, a Child Month special. Young people telling it like it is.
The world through their eyes.
We are talking corporal punishment, spanking, flogging, a good old lick, whatever you call it. The older folks say, do not spare the rod and spoil the child. Children should be spanked when they fall out of line. What are those on the receiving end saying? 11-year-old Deanna Sanderson, 12-year-old Joel Pagan, 10-year-old Janae Gibson, and 11-year-old Benjamin Golding are in studio with us. So too is Dorrit Crawford from the Coalition for Better Parenting. I am sure they are just itching to tell us what they think. Should parents beat or spank their children, Benjamin?
In certain situations, I believe it might be necessary to do it, to spank them.
What are those situations?
If you catch your child smoking, I believe you should spank them.
Janae, what do you think?
I think in some situations it's also necessary to spank them.
And what are your situations?
If you catch them stealing, drinking, or
stealing, those are your top two. How about you?
Well, children should be spanked in certain situations.
What are your situations?
Like if you're a parent and you tell your child not to do something, and then you catch them doing that thing, then I think they should be spanked.
Okay, what are some of the things that children should be spanked for?
If you hear them like cursing, or you catch them stealing and lying about it after, and many other things.
How about you?
well, yes, in certain situations they should be spanked because children should listen to their parents. If they catch them doing something that they were told not to do, they should.
So
if they are found cursing foul languages or whatever, they should be spanked because they know that they're not supposed to do those things.
So you all agree that children should be spanked for certain things?
Yes.
What, Ms. Crawford, how about you? What do you think?
Well, you know, the jury is out on corporal punishment. And I'm glad you asked me, what do I think? And not what should be done. Because we're in a society where our children expect some form of discipline, right? For the coalition, spanking must be the very last resort. A child could exist without spanking, right? Because when you begin to make spanking the first choice for discipline, what happens is that you begin to ask yourself, and how often should I spank? And where's the list for what do I spank for? And Where does spanking border on abuse? And all these questions that become quite a task. And with, of course, the new regulations on child abuse, parents could find themselves in court. You know, they'll be acting against the law. So at the coalition, we are saying that if you must resort to spanking, then it must be the absolutely last resort. And as you know, the Ministry of Education have come out and said that the ministry is against corporal punishment in schools.
That's in schools?
In schools.
But they haven't touched the home yet,
well,
have they?
the school, the home, and the community, as we speak to the family, becomes one. You know, where do we draw the line? And the coalition would like to suggest to parents all across the country that there are alternatives to discipline. Okay. Right? And discipline begins very early in the child's life. Very, very early. Before the child develops language, discipline becomes necessary.
If you do something wrong and you're spanked, is the spanking effective? Does it stop you from doing it again? Diana?
To some children, they just take it and they feel that, well, I get spanking all the time, so it's nothing to them. So it's just better you talk to them, and if they don't listen, well, that is their problem.
Whose problem? The parent or the child?
Both. Well, if the child is not disciplined, then they won't know what to do. They're just following their parents.
So can't they just, the parent that is, can't they just talk to you strongly without spanking or beating you? That won't work?
Well, if the child is indisciplined, he might just think, when I do this act, all that will happen to me is a stern talking to. Well, I might as well do it again because I'll get away with it just like how I did this time. So
the talking to just won't work?
I think I agree with Miss Hare saying that spanking should be a last resort. Maybe it could take away a privilege, like take away the computer for a month or the TV or something.
Oh, okay. So sending to a corner, or that won't work. It has to be computer or TV or
something that they love.
Something that they love. How about rebellion? When children are beaten, how do the parents handle the rebellious ones?
Well, it is well known that beating solves very, very, very few problems. And I mean, I have to listen to the children. They are saying that it depends. If a child gets beaten, whipped continuously, it's just a whipping. It will go away, the pain will go away, and I'll go back to do what I have just done. And so you really need to develop a behavior consequence relationship with your child. And I agree too with my young gentleman here with taking away privileges, time out, and a lot of reasoning with your children. And as I say before, Alva, it cannot be when your child turns 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, going on to 18, that you begin to use the positive discipline. We call it positive discipline, right? You cannot wait until that time to introduce positive discipline.
So we're saying that children need and ought to be spanked when they've done really, really serious things.
And this is where we'll have to close the pages of this edition of Jamaica Magazine. Please do tune in again tomorrow for another informative and interesting edition. Remember, this and other programs can be viewed online at www.jis.gov.jm. While you're at it, give us your feedback at Jamaica Magazine at jis.gov.jm. On behalf of the team here at the JIS, I am Alison Watson. Have a great evening.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.